Basically, again, I have this random spreadsheet that doesn't have any actual numbers in it. I pulled it offline somewhere. And I have some formulas over here. This one is taking the average of all the sales from January until June. And then obviously the total would be the same. So let's say if I had a similar spreadsheet somewhere else, and I wanted to copy these formulas here, I could copy them, and then let's say I'm just going over here, and if I wanted to paste those formulas into here, we could do what's called a special paste. So instead of just hitting Control V or right-clicking paste, we can go up here and click the down arrow, and then this one here says formulas. So it automatically pastes just the formulas. But again, let's say that I just wanted to copy those values from, if I can find where I was again. If I just wanted the numbers from this, then we could go back over here and paste just the values, which is okay. Where we could just paste the values, which is again one of these buttons, and there's plenty of different options here. So this one's just values. So it took that 463.33 and put it in there, as opposed to putting in the formula, which I believe is going to be taking the average. It's going to automatically change my formula to be within this range. So it's kind of intuitive. Okay. And it tries to think a lot of times for you. And there's actually a lot of different things that you can do. So let's say for some reason that all of these numbers were off by 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type 1 into this other cell over here and copy it. Now let's say, so again, all of these are off by 1. I'm going to do what's called a special paste. So there's a dialog box that will come up when I click this button after clicking this down arrow. And it basically, there's again, a lot of things that you can do with this. So there's operation, so I can click subtract. So now it will take this 1 and do all of these minus 1 or whatever I copied. And you can do that with formulas and all these other options here. It's a quick way to change everything by a certain amount, so that way you don't have to go back through and do it by hand. So now all of them should have gone down by 1. Is that kind of what you were looking for, Bob?
Yeah, I didn't know you had the special paste options. I was just trying to copy and paste, but the boxes with values and formulas, I wasn't too successful.
Yep, and there's actually a really easy way. So I actually just learned this last week too, where up here in the upper left-hand corner, if you click this drop-down menu and then we go to more commands, you can actually add more commands to this upper left. So what I normally do is I go to if I go to all commands, and there's plenty of them, and then I go down to the pastes, you can set it up so that way you can paste just the formulas. And so what I'm doing is I'm just clicking on it, clicking add, and then it puts it over into the right hand column. So that way, and then when I click OK, it shows up here. So that way you don't have to go over to here and then find the button. So now, if I would copy these formulas again, and I'm just putting them here just to showcase, they're not going to find anything because it's trying to take the average of nothing, but it's now up here for you. And you can do that with a lot of different commands. As you can see, I added the quick print, but most of the popular commands are within the popular commands. But if you go to all commands, there's definitely over 1,000 in here that you can use, as opposed to doing this paste down arrow. Is there any Is there any questions about that? Feel free to like interrupt me at literally any time with any questions. Okay.
No, I think I just have to play with it now.
Yep, and that's all Excel is about really, is just messing around with it, trying to make it do whatever you need to do. Next, let's see, what else do I got here? So next, I think I'm just going to go over some more formulas. I know when I talked to Dave my first week here, he was wondering about the not statement. So this comes somewhat easy to me because I have a coding background and we use not statements all the time. But I understand that they are not easy. So basically, to make this much easier on ourselves, I'm going to go ahead and click this insert function button, so that way we can go to our not statement. So that way it basically takes us through a step-by-step. So a not statement checks to see if the value is not true, which can cause a lot of double negatives that don't make any sense, especially if you have other like if statements within it. And maybe I should go over if statements really quickly here first, just to quickly go over it. So maybe I want to see if this is above $400, make this value amazing. But if it's not above 400, as you can see from which one of these is highlighted, not amazing. So basically, as my cursor is going through here, you can see different things, either the logical test, which is what it's testing. So it's testing to see if that cell is above 400. And then if it's true, it will make this cell that it's in amazing. And then if it's not true, it will display not amazing. So in this case, it should display amazing, as it does. But I'm just going to change this to something else. It changes to not amazing. So this is where a not statement could maybe come in handy, where if this is equal to or not equal to not amazing. Actually, is that how that works? I don't even know. Maybe I'll have to get back to you guys on that one, because obviously I'm still learning how to use not statements. But not statements, I don't think I've ever used one outside of a homework assignment. Is there any other functions that you guys know about but maybe don't know a lot about?
Well, I guess I have one too. If you're adding numbers in a column, but you also want to add those numbers across in a row, those formulas don't intercept, do they?
So I'm gonna move this down, and I'm gonna get rid of. So you're saying I wanted to add up, let's say, a column down here. So I would do equal sum of these two, and that will add those up. And then I brought that all the way over.
Okay.
So this is the addition of these two above it. And then I also have a total over here. They don't intercept with each other. I think that's what you mean from that, right?
Right. So that's a whole different, obviously a different formula in that cell.
Yep. So this one, if I double click on the cell, it shows me, kind of color codes it, so that way I can see it.
Okay.
So then each one is the sum of what's by it, and in this case, it's all the way across.
So now if you've got your total going down on the column on row 5, now what if you want to add 2 more in there? Do you have to insert a row above that formula sum?
Yes.
You...
There's also an easier way to do it, where basically if we made this a table, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this, but I'm going to go ahead and make some of this a table real quick here. So now it's a table, and then while I'm in the design tab, you can actually click this total row, and then it should automatically put a total. And if you click in these cells and then put in another, you can put in another variable to put in there. So again, I'm going to do sum. And I'm just going to do that for all of these. And then let's say that we get another row in here. So I'm just going to insert one and then just put in random values. It will automatically total up.
Okay.
And then I can just keep inserting new lines, and then it will keep pushing this total line down. And as you can see from this drop-down menu, there's plenty of things that you can do with that table.
Well, I think I need to know and play around with all those drop-downs. There's a lot.
Yep. So count there. It will just count how many are above it. I don't know what I don't know what the difference between count and count. Oh, maybe if we had a name in here, it won't count. Then, yep. Okay, so that's what that does. And then the max, so on and so forth. I've never used standard deviation in Excel before, but to each their own. So then one thing that I did for the CSCs is I did that round down thing for you guys, which I hear helped a bit.
I don't think I know about that.
Basically, they had a formula that was timesing a few things. So let's say that here we're just gonna open up a new spreadsheet here. They had a certain dollar amount here and another dollar amount here, and then they had a formula that did this times this, and what that ended up doing was when this was down, or like this, it was going down the wrong way. So basically it was going from 0.818 to 0.81 for whatever reason. So there's a formula that we can do that's called RoundDown, that we just put whatever we did in here, and then it should it needs another argument in there, and we go to 2 decimal places, so that's what I'm going to put in there, and then it automatically rounds it down as opposed to rounds up.
Okay.
So then so this one's 0.82 and this one's 0.81 because I have the round down. And you can actually do the same with round up. So you can go either way on that. And then let's say you wanted to go to 3 decimal places, you can just change the 2 to a 3 up here. And then I got to make sure it actually shows it. So that way it rounds up. In this case, it goes on to 0, so it doesn't round up, but yeah. And then I think I'm going to save a VLookUp for another time. I know Darwin suggested that I would show you guys VLookUp And HLOOKUP, basically what it does is if I had this formula over in this cell here, it looks within a chart for that value that I would type in here, and then it would display another thing among the column here. I need to find a better example for it. It's really hard to explain just talking about it, but we have that going for us. And then I was going to show you guys actually one of the things that I've been working on. That I've been kind of showing. So this is that spreadsheet that I sent to everybody about 8 different times. So let's say that you wanted to sort this from Z to A for whatever reason. You could do that. And then there's also these check marks if you wanted to get rid of people. And I know Bob, you were saying something about sorting within that you wanted to learn about. So if this only works if it's a table. So to make things a table, basically you just highlight whatever you need to and click this Format as Table and choose whatever design you want. And then these.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's fair. That's fairly simple to continue using. Now there is actually there's more we can do with this actually. So let's say I wanted to sort by extension number for whatever reason. So if I highlight this and go to data, and then we click the sort button here, it brings up like a hierarchy of sorting. So right now it's sorting by extension and by their values, so it's going from smallest to largest. Now this works better in other scenarios, but we can add another level. So that way we can do sort by extension first, and then sort by name, and then go from A to Z. It doesn't change anything in here, but let's say that we were to give some of these precedence over others. So I'm going to go ahead and change these over to a different color just to exemplify something. So for whatever reason, maybe Michelle and Samantha deserve a raise at the end of the year. So we made them yellow, and maybe Bill and Sarah, they get a pizza party.
I want a raise.
I think we all do. So we can go ahead and go back to this data and go to our sort again. And I'm gonna have it go by name first, except I'm gonna go by cell color. And we can pick what cell color goes first. So then we can keep adding our cell ones. And I gotta go back over to cell color here. And then we're gonna choose that one on bottom for whatever reason. I'm just picking random stuff here. And then I'm gonna hit OK. So now it sorts by name, but it puts this precedence first and then takes these two last. And I used it actually to determine who was like the head of their department, so that way they were always at the top of their list. And there's a whole lot of different things you can do with this sorting hierarchy. So now I can just go ahead and delete that one, and now the yellow ones are back into their correct spots while green is still down there. And it's not sorting this column here because basically I have two tables going on here. It made it a lot easier. So that, just in case you were wondering why that's not working. And if I go back over to this one, Bob, you might actually, yeah, most people might already know this, but we're going to do it anyway. So let's say I wanted to quickly get a total of these. You can just click this AutoSum here in the home menu, and then it's acting weird because okay, so I'm back still over here. If I hit enter, okay. If I wanted a total of these, I could just click AutoSum, and then it automatically makes a cell that is the sum of these. And you can also do that for sum, average, max, min, so on and so forth. There's basically a lot of different ways to do the same thing, and sometimes that's more confusing for people, but once you get to know it, it's just shortcuts everywhere, and you can quickly do something. What else do we got here? Any questions so far on like the sorting or really anything, or just questions in general?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Trying to think what else I could show you guys. Next time I'm planning on doing like the pivot tables, because I know I'm still confused about it, and that's why I'm doing it next week. And then we can do actually I can show you guys that VLookUp now, because I think this is actually a pretty good example. So it's another formula, and let's say over here we wanted to start our VLOOKUP. I'm going to go ahead and hit this insert function, so that way it brings up our step-by-step. So, and it also gives us some very helpful like tips on how to use it. So basically there's 4 things that we have to input into this function to make it work. So first, it's asking for the lookup value. So it's going to be, pick a cell that you're going to be typing into that you want it to look up. So I'm going to choose H8 right here. So that's where I'm going to be typing later. Then, in this one, we're choosing a table array. I'm going to go ahead and choose our table. Most of the time it will say table 1 because you're choosing table 1. Then column index number. So this is what it will look up after you search something. So I'm going to go ahead and insert 2, and I'll explain that in a little bit what's going on there. And then range lookup, it's almost always false. There's almost never reason to put true there. Sometimes it works better, but that's for another day. So now I'm going to type something in here, and I'm just going to type in Darwin. And that did not work as well as I planned. Let's go ahead and move this over so that way it doesn't do that. And it might be going by Beth key actually. Does it have to be perfect? There we go. So if I type in their name, it will display their extension number, and that's what that 2 was about. This 2 right here is going to the second column of of the table. So if I instead put in 3 here, it should give me their title. So this allows, if you had a really long list of, let's say, like inventory numbers, and you wanted to quickly just find job number 111679, and you just wanted to know what their phone number was, so that way you could quick call them, you could set it up so that way you just type it into here, and then it would show up in the next cell over. And the same works for HLOOKUP, except if this table was oriented differently. So VLOOKUP is doing vertical, so basically it's searching vertically for Darwin Bethke in this row, and then it's going over to this one. Does that make sense, to everyone?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent.
Yes.
And then I think actually, if I might be wrong here, if we made this true, then we might be able to just do Bethke, and then it will. This time it came up with 7916. I don't know why it went to Suan, but that's really odd actually that it does that. Interesting. It might just be finding the B and then going in there. That's why I almost always do false there, because then you have to do an exact match as opposed to approximate match, and sometimes that can be a little bit wonky. What else do we got? I think that's really all I have for you guys, for this week at least.
I have another question.
Yeah.
If you wanna pull something off, what am I trying to? I'm trying to think of an application. What if you wanted to insert a picture or another table into a spreadsheet?
So most
Do
of
you
that
have
stuff.
to make?
Sorry, continue.
Do you have to allocate the number of cells that's going to take up, or is it just a matter of insert?
Most of the time it's just insert. So I'm just gonna go ahead and insert picture, and then I'll insert this picture of you, most of you guys. It automatically just takes up whatever space it's gonna take, and you can always resize it. It doesn't go into any specific cell. There is a way to make it be in a cell, so that way it stays in the same location when you print it. But I don't remember how to do that offhand.
Okay. So but you can, once you insert it, if you already have tables or whatever information on that spreadsheet, it's not going to drop it on top of the stuff that's already there, is it?
It can. Like, I can move this over our data, and then nobody's the wiser to that data ever being there. But you can move it around just like you were in Word or anything else, really.
Okay. And you can resize it, whatever it may
Yep.
be.
You can resize it, and then there's even the format. You can do a whole bunch of different things up here.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right.
Don't be afraid to call me and be like, "Hey Kyle, how do you do this random thing?" I might not know it offhand, but I can always do some research for you guys. So yeah, and then I'll hopefully be doing this next week too. So yeah.
I guess the conditional formatting too, that's probably quite a few things you can do now also.
Yep. So I'm just going to take my data that I have here, and conditional formatting, you can have it so that way it puts out bars.
Well,
there's a lot of different things here. Most of the time what I do is I go into this new rule and then play with these options. And there's a lot of different things you could do with that too.
okay.
And maybe
So
I'll
again,
go... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it just comes down to where you got to play with it. There's so much stuff hidden, you don't know what's being used.
Yeah,
or what you can use.
And I'm actually writing down conditional formatting right now, so that way maybe I can go through some of the options and at least give you some examples, some starting ground to play with it.
And then I don't know if I probably just the formatting of the formulas, add, subtract,
Yep.
all that stuff. If you don't use it, you lose it, and I think I lost it.
Basically, the main thing to remember is that everything starts with an equal sign. And you can always click this insert function and then type in here something like a brief description. So let's say you wanted sum, and then it finds it for you. And then it automatically inserts it here, and then you can do what you need to do.
Okay.
All right. With that, I thank you guys for coming in. I'm glad I wasn't just teaching myself today. And I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay, bye, Kyle.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks.
Yep, no problem.
Bye-bye.